what's up, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy, coming at you with another fun podcast episode. Today I'm talking to the founder of Teach the Geek, and his name is Neil Thompson. He is a speaker, a writer, an entrepreneur. He started out his career in product development, earning his bachelor's and master's degree. Eventually went on to become a professional engineer. He's established basically in San Diego, and he's been published in the San Diego Business Journal with articles and all kinds of other areas related to public speaking. So what Neil does is he helps people learn how to public speak, because all as engineers we all kind of struggle with this, right? It's kind of inherent in our personality. Not everybody, but sometimes we need a little push to do a little better in our public speaking. So after he felt like he failed in a lot of presentations of his own, he jumped into learning how to be a better public speaker, helping other people be a better public speaker, and learning all the skills necessary for that. So he went on to create this Teach the Geek site, creating courses to help people with public speaking, and we detail all of that in this episode so we can become better public speakers, I myself included. Anyway, it's going to be a good time. This is Neil Thompson with Teach the Geek. All right, so welcome everybody. I got Neil with us today. Neil, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Isaac. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right myself, despite all the stuff 2020 is bringing. But we're doing well. We're doing well over here. Hey, Neil, I will read in probably a short bio about yourself, but I wanted to let you tell us about yourself, how you got into what you're doing now, and even how you got into an engineering role and product management, things of that nature. So.
Sure. So I went to school for engineering. My father thought it was a good idea, and so I took his advice and went into engineering. It worked out pretty well. I ended up working in medical devices, more specifically spine making or designing spinal implants and instrumentation. And at the first job that I did at such a company, I had to be what's called a project lead. And essentially that meant that the company was too cheap to hire project managers. So I had to take on that role. And one of those responsibilities was giving project status updates on a monthly basis in front of senior management. So the CEO, COO, the VP of marketing, all the people with corner offices, I had to give presentations in front of them every month. And I wasn't very good at it. And I noticed a lot of the other engineers weren't all that much better at it than I was. But I got a lot better at it over time because I didn't want to look like a doofus every time I had to give one of these presentations. So essentially, because of having to do them every month, I got better at it over time, and I took everything that I learned and I turned it into a course, an online course, and I called it Teach the Geek to Speak. And it's geared towards people like myself, people that work in the STEM fields, engineers and scientists who see a need or need to get better at public speaking or just presenting in front of people. And so far, it's been going pretty well. I started it back in 2018.
Wow, that's fantastic. So I just want to go back a little bit. Is your father an engineer?
No.
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 He's just like, it's a good field. Go do
Yeah,
it.
I guess I think he thought engineering was suitable because of the stability of it. And, you could get paid pretty well as an engineer. So I think that's pretty much why he suggested it.
Gotcha. And you also got your PE license. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that was actually, I did that out of just kind of what's the best way to say it? The challenge of it. Because in medical devices, there's very few. Actually, I don't really know of anybody who has their PE license.
I don't know either.
And so I just got it just to see if I could do it.
What discipline did you take that in?
Chemical engineering.
Chemical. Wow.
Yeah. So even getting that was interesting because I didn't think that I could study on my own and pass it because I don't have very good study habits. Just being by myself, I need some kind of accountability. So there was a chemical PE so I'm in California, in Southern California, in San Diego, but he's up in Northern California in the Bay Area, in close to Oakland. So I would fly up there for classes with other people. So he used to hold these classes for maybe about 5 or 6 of us, and basically just teach us what we needed to do to pass the exam. So I would leave work on a Friday evening, fly up to Oakland, rent a car, drive to Walnut Creek where his office was. You'll rent a hotel for the night, and then go over there and take the class, and
Wow.
then fly back the next day.
You're dedicated, man.
Yeah,
That's
I did that for about what, six weeks, something like that.
wow. Way to go.
Yeah, for
Hey,
something that I really didn't need to do.
I applaud you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a challenging exam. That's what we try to help people with, but geared for civil engineers, obviously. So that's awesome. So tell me, is that what you're doing full time now? Is teach the geek, or do you still work as an engineer, or where are we at with that?
Well, I do a bunch of things. So Teach the Geek is one of them, and I have another business with a couple of former coworkers where we help small medical device companies with their packaging projects. That business is called Steriliant. And then
Okay.
I became a patent agent a few years ago, and I became one because the boss that I had at one of the companies I was working at wanted all the engineers to become patent agents so he wouldn't have to outsource any patent drafting to outside counsel. And so I thought it was something I had to do. Apparently, I was mistaken because none of the other engineers did it. Only I did. So I became a patent agent. But then, wouldn't you know, he still outsourced all the patent drafting to outside counsel. So now I became a patent agent with nothing to patent. So I ended up for a few years not really using it for much. But then eventually decided to go off on my own and draft applications for inventors. And I did that for a couple of years. The issue with that though is I wasn't getting all that many interesting cases just as a solo patent agent, just offering services out there. So last year I joined up with a firm here in the San Diego area where I live, and we work mostly on life science innovations, biotech, medical device, pharma, those type of things. And it's really been cool, drafting these applications and corresponding with the patent office. So I do that as well. And then I wrote a children's book a couple of years ago too. So I got a bunch of things
My
that I work on.
gosh, you're like the jack of all trades, man. That's
You know, I,
awesome.
I just follow my interests. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I guess I'm probably doing the same thing. Started the engineering career. I still work as an engineer, but I started Civil Engineering Academy because I want to help other people. But yeah, I like where your head's at, following your interests. So let's dive into then. Your course, Teach the Geek, is obviously built to help engineers learn skills. And what are you seeing out there as a whole in the industry for engineers needing to learn public speaking skills?
Well, in engineering school, where you're taught all the the technical type of skills that it would be needed to do these jobs, but once you actually start working, you're not just working with other engineers. You're working with non-engineers. When I was in medical devices, we worked in teams. So I typically would be the product development representative, but there'd be a marketing person, a quality person, a manufacturing person, a regulatory affairs person. Not all these people were technical in their backgrounds. So being able to communicate with them in a way that they could understand was really important, just to be able to get your point across to the team. And then I also mentioned I had to give presentations in front of management, and a lot of them weren't technical either. So if you could have all the best ideas in the world, if you're not able to convince decision makers that these ideas are worth pursuing, then they'll just stay ideas. They won't ever be put into practice. So just being able to talk to people and being able to get your point across, not using a whole bunch of technical jargon because people don't really understand it. Just keeping people where they're at in mind when talking to them. It's all very important.
So, Neil, was it like your first presentation that you quickly realized that you didn't learn these skills, or like what was the story behind that? Was it just and how you came up with this whole course? Was it you just saw your very first presentation wasn't going too well and you were like, you know what, we need to work on that?
Oh yeah. So that first presentation was just it was terrible. And what I did is I was arrogant at the time. So I just slapped some stuff together on a slide, put it up there, read them off, and try to get out of there as quickly as possible. I noticed
Mm,
that I wasn't doing a good job. The reason I knew that I had a long way to go in terms of improving my presentation skills is the questions I was getting after the presentation, I thought I had answered during the presentation. But because I didn't present them in such a way that the people could take in and understand, I was getting these questions. And ultimately, you would have thought that I would have improved after that, but even though that, in the next few presentations, I didn't. I stayed cocky. I still just slapped some stuff up on the slides, got up there and read them. But and you'd think I would have learned my lesson from the first time I did it. But eventually, I did learn my lesson when my project got canceled. And I realize now, and looking back, perhaps I could have saved the project if I was just better at communicating the importance of it. I guess we'll never know. But that certainly was the turning point for me in knowing that this is something I really need to get better at.
That's great. That's fantastic. So I guess diving into some of those skills, what are some of the tips maybe you could share with the audience about public speaking and presentations? Is there
Well,
some
yeah,
things you could highlight?
for sure. So the big one for me, well, for anyone really, is knowing the audience. I mean, as I said, I was just slapping stuff together on slides and getting up there. I wasn't taking what the background of the audience into account when I got up there to speak. So I'm sure I was using a whole bunch of words and jargon that the engineers would use that perhaps the others didn't. People in the audience, the decision makers especially, didn't understand. And if my goal was to convey information, I was doing a poor job of it. So certainly knowing your audience is really important. And then when it comes down to it, also something I think a lot of us, just not even engineers, but just people that present, don't take into account is timing. I have a friend that actually makes fun of me because of it. Because whenever I give presentations and I'm given a certain amount of time, I stay within the time and I don't go over. Especially when you're in a work environment and people are busy, especially the decision makers, when you see senior management people, you really don't want to waste their time by going over time if you're given a certain amount of time to give a presentation. So practicing your presentation beforehand to make sure you're within time, I think is really important. And that's definitely not something I did early on. As I said, I just put some slides together. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get through them slides, but it took me as long as it took me. but then, once I realized that this is something I really wanted to try to get better at, just being respectful of other people's time became more important to me. So staying within time was important too. And then, go ahead.
I was just saying, I've been in meetings where it's scheduled for an hour and now you're there for an hour 15, hour 20, and you're just kind of wiggling in your seat. You're ready to get out of there. So I think that's valuable. Valuable tip.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if you got to stay late and they didn't provide any donuts and coffee, now you're really mad. Like, come on, man. You got me here 15 minutes late. At least provide some food,
That's true. If it's 1 minute over, where's the food?
Where's food at, man? For real. Order some lunch. But, so that another tip I have has to do with slides. And this is something I certainly was guilty of because, as I mentioned, I used to slap some stuff together and I read the slides. So people didn't actually see my face, the people in the audience, because I was looking at the slides. Either I was looking at the screen, the projector screen, or looking at my computer screen. That's not a very good way to convey information if you want people to actually listen to you. You actually want to look at the people that you're talking to. I mean, even when you're in a regular conversation with somebody, you're typically looking at them when you're talking to them, and you're not looking down. You're not looking other places. So a presentation isn't all that different. You should look at the people too. And then when it comes to the content of the slides, you don't want to read because people will just read the slides. They won't listen to you. And ultimately, it's about public speaking, not public reading. You could have just sent them the slides, and they could have read them at their own convenience. You're there to convey something, and so you really want to minimize the amount of text you have on the slide to essentially force the people to listen to you. Or, well, I guess they have two choices: either they listen to you or they ignore you. So essentially, you want to eliminate the choice of them reading the slides. So those are a few of the tips I got.
Hey, those are some great points. Great points. I'm curious also, have you seen success in teaching somebody? Like, what's been the most satisfying part of this whole thing for you?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously it started with myself. I saw the benefit in myself getting better at public speaking, but even the compliments and the testimonials I've been able to get from people going through the course has been great as well. Initially, when I put the course together, I put out a video, put out a camera on my kitchen table, and just talked about the things that I thought were as important to public speaking. But then I had a friend look over what I planned on putting out, And she said that you can't put that out. This is terrible. The lighting isn't even good. You need to get a light or something. But essentially, she said that you need to do this all over again. And what would be beneficial to you is to make it more of a process. And when she said that, I felt kind of foolish, really, because as an engineer, at least in medical devices, we have to follow a process to develop medical devices. So the fact that I didn't even think to make my course some sort of process was kind of embarrassing to say the least. So then I went back to the drawing board. I made it more of a process, a 6-step process that you can go through to develop any presentation that you have to give. And I really liked it because it was repeatable. I like the course because it is fairly short, about 90 minutes, so it's not too long. I try to eliminate as much fluff as possible so that people can, get what they need to get out of it and implement what I talk about in the course right away. But so yeah, getting that feedback from people, liking the process, liking the online nature of it, liking the fact that I, get to the point and don't have a whole lot of fluff in there. I think that it's really appealing to people like myself, engineers and scientists.
That's great. It sounds like it's very streamlined. You get what you need so you can do your presentation and become a better public speaker. Where is that at? Just teachthegeek.com?
That's right.
Okay. That's awesome. Is there a myth or anything about public speaking you'd like to debunk?
Oh yeah. The big one that I hear about is when people talk about introverts not being good at public speaking. That's just not true. I honestly, I don't think people really understand what introvert means. So I think a lot of times people think that introvert is the same thing as shy, but it's not. Introversion has to do with the ability to be around people and interact with people over time. It's just that after we do it, we feel kind of drained. So I'm an introvert by through and through. So after I interact with people for a while, I feel rather drained, and I just need to have some time to recharge. The difference with extroverts is they get energy from interacting with people, so they're on a high afterwards. So they want to do it again. For me, I need to go take a nap. I'm actually physically tired after sometimes giving these presentations in front of people. But it doesn't mean that I don't like giving the presentations. I very much enjoy getting up in front of people and talking about things that I'm interested in. So that's I think the biggest myth.
Oh, that's a good point. I think I'm the same way. If I'm doing a lot of public stuff, then I get drained. I need to go like Netflix binge in a room or something. You kind of get your energy back up. But it doesn't mean you don't enjoy it, and it doesn't mean you suck at it. I think that's spot on. The other one, maybe you can touch on this, but if I remember right, public speaking is like the number one fear of everybody. It's like ranked higher than death. Like people are worried about death, but public speaking is higher than that. What would you say to somebody that's just completely terrified about doing public speaking? How do you overcome that fear?
Yeah, I've heard that too. That public speaking is the number one fear of people, and really, I guess to overcome it, you have to think. At least how it helps me is just thinking about the benefit of overcoming that fear. Things open up for you when you become better at public speaking. There are a whole lot of disgruntled engineers sitting at their cubicle right now wondering why they can't get ahead in their careers. And oftentimes they look and see the people that are and wonder why this person get to where they're at. They're not any better than I am. But the likeliness of or the reason likely that they got ahead is just being able to speak to people, being able to build relationships with the people that have the decision making or the authority to promote people, to provide those pay raises. And when you develop those relationships, that's what really greases the wheels in helping you to increase your visibility and move up within companies and even change companies and move up. Just being able to build up a network. So I think that's if there's any reason to get better at public speaking, it's just to benefit you. And I treat myself well, so I really want to do things that benefit me.
I'm glad you treat yourself well. Yeah, I think that's a great point. The people I've seen that have moved up have usually talked, they're a little more vocal. They're talking to people that have the power to make decisions, building that relationship there, but they're also willing to step up when called upon, right? Who's going to volunteer to do the who we need a volunteer to do the safety presentation this month. Who's going to run that? And maybe that should be you. Maybe you should take the chance to do that, because it's probably going to help you hone your skills a little bit. So that's great. Neil, is there a personal habit you feel like's contributed to your success, either as an engineer or a public speaker?
I think my something that's really helped me is just being honest, being able to be honest with myself and not thinking that wherever I'm at is where I have to stay. So, I mean, I know I did say that my project had to be canceled for me to realize that public speaking or presenting in front of people is something I should improve at. I could have just said, no, to hell with it. I'll just find another job. And hopefully I don't have to be a project lead anymore and I don't have to get in front of these people. But I saw the benefit or the utility in becoming better at public speaking. And then I took steps to get better at it. So just being able to look within myself and realize there are things I need to improve on to benefit myself. I think that's something that's really helped me out.
That's awesome. This is just kind of a fun question, but what's the best advice you've ever received, or good advice in general?
Best advice I've ever received is to go for what you want. And even if there are naysayers that say you can't do it, ignore them and continue on anyway. That's a big one for me. I mean, there's always going to be people that may say that there's certain things that you can't do. In fact, now that I think about it, I mentioned I got my PE a few years ago. I remember telling my boss at the time that was something I was going to do. And I remember him saying, "What are you doing that for? It's not really you're not going to get paid anymore because you got your PE." I could have just left it there and been like, "All right, I guess no PE for me." But apparently that wasn't the case. I was flying up to Northern California for 6 weeks, renting hotels and renting rental cars to go take a course with this, chemical engineer up there. So I certainly didn't let what he said, stop me from pursuing what I wanted to do.
Wow, that's great advice. The problem I see in like the civil engineering world is that a lot of engineers kind of get pigeonholed and they don't get to get experience in a lot of different areas of engineering before they have to kind of make a decision on which career they want to make. But I think learning like public speaking, like you said, opens a lot of doors. There's so many associations that they could be a part of that people would reach out to them and open up doors to different areas if they wanted to. So I think that's good stuff. Is there a book that you would recommend to our audience, the Civil Engineering Academy audience?
I recommend my own.
That's good.
Yeah. So I wrote a book a couple years ago, not too long after I started the course. And it, just similar to the course, it's not too long. I have a friend who makes fun of me because he says that I only want to read short books. But I've actually looked into this. As time has gone on, books have gotten longer. So if you were to look at the average length of a book from 50 years ago, it's less pages than books that are being made now. And yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. And whenever I think of even reading a book, I'll go to Amazon and I'll read the 1 and 2 star ratings. I never read the 5-star ratings. I always read the poor ratings. I'm interested to see what people didn't like about the book. And one of the biggest critiques I see about books is that they were unnecessarily long. There was a whole lot of words and fluff in these books that didn't need to be there. The book could have been a fraction of the pages it was. So I made sure that when I wrote this book, I wanted it just like the course to be, fluffless, to the point, and just presenting the things that I think are really important when it comes to giving presentations. So this book clocks in, I think, like 120 pages, and that was definitely by design. So
that's good.
You find out about that book at teachthegeek.com. It's called Teach the Geek to Speak.
Teach the Geek to Speak. Okay, we'll check that out. Is it? I'm just curious. Is it on Amazon as well? Or
yes.
Okay. Good. We'll link that in the show notes. We'll link that up there. That's great. This is just kind of a fun question I ask, but if you had all the resources and knowledge to be in the world, what's something you'd like to be a part of in the world of civil engineering or engineering in general?
So I wrote this children's book a couple of years ago, and it's called Ask Uncle Neil, Why is My Hair Curly? The book is about my nephew asking me why his hair is the way it is, and I use science to answer the question. The goal of the motivation for me writing the book was to promote STEM careers to Black children, because Black people are underrepresented in the STEM fields.
Yeah.
The big thing though I want to emphasize is I want them to consider going into STEM. I don't want to promote STEM to people, and I always like to note that difference. With one of them, the latter, it seems more prescriptive. There aren't enough Black people in STEM. We need more Black people in STEM. Let's get more of them in STEM. I just want them to consider it. I don't want them to just cross it off because for whatever reason. I want them to know that there are no careers that are off limits to them, and that's the main reason I wrote the book. So if I had unlimited resources, it would be to go around the world and speaking to Black children about considering careers in engineering and science and just in STEM in general, and letting them know that it's for everyone, including them.
That's fantastic. We'll have to, is that book on Amazon too?
It is.
We'll have to link that one too. That's great. Well, Neil, I've appreciated this interview. This has been a really fun episode for me, learning about public speaking, learning the tools and things that you've noticed from an engineer's perspective on how we can better develop public speaking skills. Is there any last piece of advice or anything you'd like to mention?
Sure. When it comes to public speaking, you can watch all the interviews, listen to all the podcasts, or read all the books you want, but you won't get better at it until you actually get out there and do it. And especially when I had to give presentations in front of work, so it was part of my job. But if it's not part of your job, look for opportunities to get out there and speak in front of people. And you certainly will improve over time. And that public speaking and just getting better at public speaking opens up so many other avenues in your career and in life.
Would you recommend a place like Toastmasters or places where you can practice public speaking, things like that?
Absolutely. So I was a member of Toastmasters for a number of years, and Toastmasters offers a great forum to practice your public speaking. When it comes to public speaking, though, they can be rather prescriptive about what they believe effective public speaking is. Mm-hmm. I suggest, even if you're a member of a Toastmasters club, that you take the critique that you think is useful and leave back anything else. Just because someone gives you feedback doesn't mean you have to implement it.
Good advice. I'm just thinking from a civil engineer's perspective. Toastmasters is a good opportunity. I think you have opportunities to teach, like through a lot of different organizations, the ASCE or any other organization that you're a member of. Your workplace is obviously a great place to start with public speaking as well, whether it's like safety presentations or running your safety group or whatever that is, or showing off the project you're working on. There's just lots of opportunities. And so I guess the whole takeaway is don't hide from those opportunities if you're looking to grow that skill, because it's going to open doors for you. So Neil, I appreciate this. This has been very fun for me. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can go to teachthegeek.com. I also have a YouTube channel where I interview scientists and engineers who do public speaking, and it's been really interesting hearing their stories about how public speaking has benefited them. And you can find that at youtube.teachthegeek.com. And if about the children's book, you can go to askuncleneil.com.
Ask Uncle Neil. Okay. Guys, go check it out, teachthegeek.com. We'll leave some links about the course, and you can go check it out. But Neil, thanks for jumping on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Isaac.
All right. See you later. Hey guys, just finished up this interview with Neil. I thought it was fantastic. He gave a lot of tips and pointers on really how to become a better public speaker. Really kind of the issues that are out there right now with engineers. And I love his myth on what an introvert is. I think that's very valuable. So anyone that's an engineer can be a good public speaker. You just got to find opportunities to do it, hone your skill. Go check out his course, teachthegeek.com. We'll leave links in our show notes about that. But definitely a fun interview, one I enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye.